Thank you, John, and thank you to Nektaria and her team for organizing every year this event where Ukraine is represented. But for me today, it's more just political or diplomatic function. It is personal. Because my grandmother, Tekla, she was from Pontic Greeks, a proud Hellenic community that flourished at the coast of Black Sea for many, many, many years, what is currently in eastern Ukraine. She was from a small village in Donbass, my homeland. This village does not exist anymore. It was shelled, burned, and occupied by the Russian aggressors a month ago. So therefore, when John, you asked me about the Trump's vote and how it impacts Ukraine, I think this war is not just about Ukraine. It's about Europe, it's about countries like Greece, and also countries like the United States. Because President Trump and his administration have been in office already for almost 6 months. So we have some facts on the ground. But sometimes I think there is an inclination to too much concentrated on the personality of President Trump. And with the due fairness, we have to admit that he is not the result of the current uncertainties. They started to exist, to become a part of the life, international life, long before Trump. Mm-hmm. In this sense, President Trump more like a diagnosis of the failure, continuing failure, of the significant and important part of the international architecture, global world order, as it's called, to function properly, to deliver of the organizing ideas they were established for. The question is, and this is, I believe, part of your hidden agenda, to try to answer whether President Trump and his policies could be part of the solution.
Yes.
In this sense, we have to be very, very clear, because that's not time. After 3.5 years of war, there is no time for the niceties. Mm-hmm. So if you look now at the facts on the ground, Ukraine currently is spending 34% of its GDP on defense, on military and security-related issues. It's $65 billion. Russia has been mentioned also, from 7 to 10%, $145 billion. So basically 1/3 of Ukrainians' GDP, even more, spent for defense. The question is how sustainable it is. Because we not just have war between two countries, we have, by definition, a highly, highly asymmetric war. And we would not be able to survive until now if there is no involvement of the countries like the United States, Germany, France, whole Europe, United Kingdom, members of G7 group. But unavoidably, when you are entering the 4th year of the war, there are questions how long it could last. Who would outlive whom? So that's we come to a question. When we heard today from our EU colleagues that it would require from 5 to 7 years for Europe to be prepared and be confident that the EU could repel and defend itself in case of the unprovoked Russian aggression. So the question, what would happen during these 5 and 7 years? And here the answer. And here the answer, I believe, or at least part of the answer. The military-industrial complex, so defense industry of Ukraine, growing faster than any other country in the world. 35 times grown our defense industry. The war is a great catalyst of everything, but especially if you are talking about defense. General Hodges most recently said that our industry, and I confirm this is the case, I would be even more optimistic, defense production is 3 times cheaper and it's 3 times quicker than the defense production in Western countries. So here we come to what is needed until the moment when Europe will be able to develop fully their ambitions of the strategic autonomy, being able to defend. The answer is the high time now to invest to the Ukrainian defense industry, because this would be the immediate interim measure to close the gap between the current situation on the ground as far as the EU defense is concerned and the Russian Federation, which is continuing to grow. As of now, and that's my final figure for this first part, as of now, the EU member states of NATO spending on support of Ukraine a little bit more than 0.1% of their GDP. I mentioned Ukraine spending 34% on GDP, the EU member states of NATO spending 0.1% of GDP. So in addition to investing to Ukrainian defense industry, a slight decrease from the 0.1 to 0.3, 0.4 would be able not just to send a strong signal to Putin and his regime that Ukraine is not alone and we continue to support Ukraine to recuperate this asymmetry, but also in the innate self-interest of Europe itself to be confident that they would be able, with Ukraine, to defend Europe.